We'll get started here in a minute. Coffee just finished. All right. How we looking? How we sounding? All right, so far looking good. Sup, Van the Man? Welcome to the live stream. And welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear, which there's been a lot of lately, and are cautious when there's greed. Let's go over to fear and greed right away, shall we? Crypto, fear, and greed. Let's hit the refresh because this has been changing a lot lately. So we were down in the tens and teens not that long ago, and now we've come back up to 34. Last I looked at the Bitcoin chart, it's been ranging between the 200 and the 100-day moving average. And I mean, locally, we do have a higher low here, and we are getting a higher high. So maybe we formed a base for fear and can start seeing a spike up. Again, we have not seen fear this low since before the bull run even started, all the way in June of 2022. Sorry if the coffee sipping noises are a little much. I'll try to sip away from the microphone. As far as CNN fear and greed, we are still in extreme fear. And a lot of what I've been seeing out there about the fear and the bearishness, we have to take a look at some of the stock charts today. We have to start looking at that and seeing what the markets are doing. If you watch my Thursday stock videos, we talk about some macro bearish indicators that are saying we could see recession on the horizon. And we'll get into a little bit of that today. But also, if this is just a pullback or a dip, what to watch for as well. And speaking of those, I mean, we've talked about this a bunch. This is normal as far as new and that we go down or sideways for 100-ish days. And the second year of the presidential term is typically the most bearish. So maybe that just means we get volatility, some possible movements up even further, more into all-time high territory before we come down and find a bottom sometime 2026, 2027. With that being said, I think it behooves us to be prepared for any sort of downturn in the market. So if we see the S&P going down 15, 20, 25%, just know that is a rare opportunity. And if it goes down even more, 30%, it's only once every 9 years. That was the COVID crash. I believe we were around 30%. And then we have not had a 40 or 50% plus correction since the great financial crisis and the dot-com bubble. And we're going to take a look at those charts a little bit. Also wanted to take a look at the Shiller P ratio. We've been looking at this recently. The S&P 500 PE ratios, just overall, we have this and then the Shiller. But there's no doubt about it. Stocks are expensive right now, so it is normal to see pullbacks. Now, was this the peak? I'm personally not leaning that this was the peak. I could be wrong, but I am still waiting for higher. Now, yes, we are higher than what we saw in the Great Depression, the 29 crash. But I think there's a lot of, the metrics are measured a little bit differently, and there's a lot of variable changes. I feel like this is sort of similar to what was happening in the 70s as well as the dot-com bubble. Now we have the AI bubble. And in my opinion, as far as the AI bubble, I don't feel like we've had that euphoric blow off top. Now, maybe some people argue we did when NVIDIA got up to, what was it, 140, 150? And that's possible. But I don't feel we've had that AI blow off top. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. We'll go over in today's video various cryptos. Let's take a look at seasonality for crypto. By the way, this live stream is brought to you by Kauai Coffee. I'm drinking their caramel flavor. If you ever go to Hawaii, sorry for the coughing, I'm not sick. If you ever go to Hawaii, they have a really good coffee company called Kauai, some good flavored coffee. And that is what I'm drinking right now. It's delicious. So we have historically seen crypto not do so well in the first quarter of the year. 9%, 10%, 10%. But overall, April is the second best month on average. So I think one of the things that I'm looking for is maybe we bottom through March, maybe even the early April. But when have been the last times we've seen a negative February? Well, in 2020, and some people are saying, hey, the top's a year away. This kind of fits that narrative. 2020, we were negative in February, also negative in March. 2014, negative in February, also negative in March. 2012, apparently we were flat in March and April. But when were those cycle tops? We go over to the rainbow chart. We had a cycle top in 2013, 2017, 2021. So this was after the bull run was already finished, and the rest of the year was pretty red and negative. And then, of course, we have 2020. 2012 was right before that, by the way, but even though we were flat. But we can go to 2020. Are we experiencing something similar where we are going to get another year to wait before we get the top and alt season? I think there are some signs pointing in that direction. Something we've been talking about a lot on this channel is how alts have been bottoming against Bitcoin overall. And so when we have total 3 Bitcoin and Ethereum Bitcoin and others Bitcoin, we'll show that on the chart. All those are still bottoming out. They may have not bottomed yet, but if those metrics are all bottoming out and we are about to see that swing to the upside, how long could that take? 6 months, a year, 2 years? We'll see. And so this is the rotation we're waiting for that we saw the last 2 cycles, is that when Bitcoin gets too expensive to buy, when it reaches its top or is in the topping process, that is when we get that final alt season push where we see the rotation. Now, we haven't even seen the long-term rotation of that yet, where the pairings against Bitcoin are in an uptrend. We have not seen that yet. We may have just seen a bottom, or where it is about to bottom, or it has further down to go. We'll see. The indicators have not shown any conclusiveness as far as us being on the way to alt season. So we could still be in a bottoming process if you're looking at Satoshi values. If we go over to this chart, again, I don't believe we've topped yet. I'm still looking for 150 to 200K Bitcoin And on the way up there, it is normal to get these large pullbacks. Last cycle, we had a very large pullback. We'll measure that out because maybe we're going to see a 40 or so percent pullback. We are in the stock market. We are being set up for a possible major flush. And if we do get a major flush, I think that could be the signal we need to say, this is the bottom for the alts paired against Bitcoin, and then we can be on our way up. As far as the alt season index, still higher highs, higher lows. That's nothing new. And as far as the rainbow chart, this logarithmic regression chart, you can see that we are down into the light green band now. And this isn't abnormal. After these big moves up, sometimes we go down a couple color zones. I mean, as far as last cycle, after the mid-cycle top, it went down 3-4 color zones. So if we were to just say, well, right here, even in 27, it only went down 2 color zones at most, 1 or 2. But if we're looking to go down 2 to 3 color zones, we can see that the light green zone bottoms at around 71K, and that is where the former top and all-time high was. And then the darker green zone, that's at 55K. Is that something we need to consider? We'll take a look. If we were to see a major flush in the markets and not a bounce sometime soon, these green areas would be what to watch for. I'm also going to talk about some Bitcoin miners today. I had a request in a video comment to take a look at Bit Digital. I have not talked about Bit Digital or Bit Farms recently, so we'll take a look at that. And let's get into the charts. So I said we had to talk about stocks today. And the reason why is we're at one of those important areas when we've gotten the last 2 times down to the 50-week moving average. Here's the indicator I'm using. When we've gotten down to this 50-week moving average, that's been where we've bottomed. Now, maybe we are in a late cycle bubble. And I think when we're talking about late cycle bubbles, it's most appropriate to take a look at what happened in the dot-com bubble. That was the last true bubble that we had. And we can even say, I mean, heck, look at this metric right here, the Shiller P ratio. That's the last time we were any higher than where we are now. Yes, you can say 2021 when we had the post-COVID crash, all the money printing, that was a bubble. I would agree with that. But the last time we had a true organic bubble, I'd say that was the dot-com bubble right there. The Shiller P supports that. But on the way up to that, you can see that the NASDAQ tested that 50 a number of times. And before it got into the blow-off top phase, I've been comparing this possibly to a 1998 style scenario, is that the NASDAQ came down to the 100-week moving average. So the 50 is the dividing line, but maybe we spike down and then form sort of a V reversal. And then we pop up for a year. And part of the reason I've been looking at this as a possibility is, let's show this on the S&P as well. So here we are near the 50. The 200 is slowly, you can see the 200's tagged, and it's possibly going lower. Okay, that's why we have all this fear. Let's go back to 1998. And you'll know if you watch my stock videos that we talk about how the rate cuts can show us whether we still have room to the bullish upside or not. So this was 1998 right here. You can see the S&P came down to the 100-week moving average, and then we spiked up further. Okay, we still had about, from these flushes, let's just measure this out. We still had about a year and a half, 2 years to go. And so that would say, maybe we see a crypto top in 2026. And this is something I've been saying out loud for a bit as far as the yield curve inversion. The yield curve has been a great indicator of that a recession and a market bottom's coming later. Now in 2000, the dot-com bubble in 2008. That happened about a year or two later. This inversion is far bigger. And so maybe I'm off for saying this, but I do wonder, with the inversion being that much deeper, is it going to take that much longer to unwind and get to a market bottom? So instead of just 600 days and we bottom mid 26, maybe it's going to take a little bit longer and we bottom in 27, 28. Now, another reason for that is we'll just go to the U.S. interest rates. So what has the Fed been doing recently? They've been cutting by 25 basis points. Okay, and now we've leveled out. They've been cutting by 25 basis points. Is this on the weekly? Let's go to, here we go. That shows it a little better. The first cut, yes, it was 50. They did not meet the next month. So we've seen the Fed cut by an average of 25 basis points for about half a year, and now they're staying flat. Unemployment, by the way, ticked up 0.1%. We're still fine on the unemployment front. But as far as that 1998 comparison, if you look when the Fed first started cutting, I mean, they cut for a little bit. This is the mid-90s. They raised, and then when they really started cutting, they averaged that 25 basis point cut, and then we were flat. And then they eventually raised rates again, but we weren't getting a bottom. We weren't rolling over until the Fed started cutting by 50 basis points. I've been saying this for a while. When the Fed is cutting large and fast, that's when you know something's broken in the economy. When they're cutting low and slow, there's still room to go. I did not mean to make that rhyme. But anyways, I see kind of a similar scenario as 1998 here with how they're cutting, and they're holding rates to where they are. And so we also have the quantitative tightening, quantitative easing chart here, the United States Central Bank balance sheet. And you can see that we are getting close to possible QE returning. So if the Fed rate cuts have paused, they did their 25 basis points, we're not broken yet because we haven't seen 50 basis point cuts. Okay, similar interest rates, similar setup with the Shiller price to earnings ratio. We talked about this. Okay, and look at that. That's 1998, if you can read it down there. It did spike down a little bit, and then we had our blow off top. In my opinion, this is what I'm looking for. But I'm looking for a 1998 style scenario where we're going to get a flash bit of pain, and then that's when we possibly see QE return. This 100-month moving average for the Fed's central bank balance sheet, the QE-QT chart, this is when we've seen a reversal. Now, right now we're just kind of flattening out to it, but if there are cracks forming in the economy, and right now we're in, I guess, what you could call an experiment with how the current administration is going about things with tariffs. A lot of this hasn't been done in a while, or hasn't been done in this sort of a way. And so I believe the markets, with all the uncertainty out there about the current administration's policies, they're pricing things in. And you've probably heard this expression, if it's in the news, it's in the price. So I feel a lot of this negativity is just pricing in potential bad things happening with our economy, with the changes. But I don't see this as a top yet. I just don't. There's multiple metrics here. We haven't seen the Fed cutting by 50 basis points. The Shiller PE can go higher. But we are going to have increased volatility going into this top. And if we are going to get a blow-off top, I think this is what we have to watch for. Again, we could see things break, and I could be wrong about all this. But I think just because the S&P and the NASDAQ are at their, let's go over to the weekly, because they're right at the 50-week moving average, and the 50-week is the dividing line between bearishness and bullishness, that yes, people are looking for a bounce here, but maybe we get a big spike. That's something I'm sort of waiting to see if that's going to happen. We might just get a regular bounce here. And frankly, at this dip, I'm still buying. Me personally, I'm still dollar cost averaging here. And if it spikes down further, I'll dollar cost average more there. I do not mind doing that. But I am only buying, and this might sound stupid, and maybe it is, I'm only buying riskier assets for the short term that can benefit from this volatility. Yes, that includes crypto, because I don't believe crypto has topped yet. And any long-term plays that might be at decent moving averages. I have some of my own personal stocks I like. Pepsi, Stanley Black & Decker. Some of them are at historic moving averages, and I don't mind putting in a little bit into these, okay? Yes, we can go further on some of these. So there is value in stocks out there, even though they could go further down. I mean, even the Mag 7 stocks like Google, I mean, you want to talk about historic support, that 50-month moving average, if Google gets down there, that's a good one. But some of these stocks are so good, even if we see a further correction, I don't hate the value and the discounted levels we're getting across the board with stocks. Even if it might, for the stocks that I might hold for 10 to 20 years, I don't mind the value I'm seeing. And if it goes down further, I'll buy more at those targets, but I'm also going to, if you're not familiar with how I talk about buying on this channel, I look at buying at the moving averages and the fib levels, but in a very bearish scenario, I'm looking more for confirmation where we have buy signals, the MACD and the stochastic RSI, and I look at those on the weekly. So if you're looking for more confirmation in a way to hedge against risk, that's something you can do. All right, let's get into crypto because that's why a lot of you are here. And so Bitcoin, this is concerning that it's possibly losing that 20-week moving average. And if we look at the weekly, we can see, here's his channel. We'll go to the daily and zoom in even more. Sorry, we have to go to the daily. If we go to the daily, here's this battle I was talking about at the beginning of the video, the battle between the 200-day and the 100-day moving average. The 100 days being sold off and we're getting lower highs, but we're also getting higher lows and the 200's holding up. So seeing sort of a doji form here, which means undecided, but you can say that these longer wicks, that there are buyers out there. Now, where did this wick down to? I guess if you want to call this a channel, it's not the best channel, but if we honor these tops, it did wick down to the lower end of this channel. And if we do see a rejection up here, and by the way, this is concerning right here, where the 50-day might cross under the 100-day. If that happens, then I would not be surprised to see Bitcoin get down to these mid-70s levels. Now, the mid-70s, that lines up with the tops that are here and here, October and March. But if you recall, that also lines up with what we're looking at on the rainbow chart. We talked about how it is not abnormal to see, after a spike, price come down a couple color bands. And if so, if we saw a bottom, let's say in April, that 73K area, the mid 70K area, would be a bottoming area to look for. And I think that lines up with where this channel is and where some of these peaks go out. So we'll just extend our channel out and we'll see if this plays out. We'll see if it plays out and forms something of a base. Let's do a horizontal line here and we'll just see what happens. This is what charting is. Sometimes we get these hunches and we're just looking at the data and we'll just see what happens. What is the reaction going to be when it gets to this level? If it gets to that level, I don't know. So that is just something I'm looking for Bitcoin. But we want to see what happens here. You know, right now we're in no man's land between the 100 and the 200. All right, let's get into some of the other macro charts. So on Bitcoin dominance, if you don't know what Bitcoin dominance is, that is the overall percent of money that's in crypto that's in Bitcoin. And when that dominance falls, that's when we get those alt seasons and that massive rotation. But we can still see somewhat of a rotation even when it's gradually going down. Now, Bitcoin dominance, it has loved this. You see the red lines. Sorry, there's so many lines here. My God, let's get rid of this fib. Some of you are watching like, what the hell am I looking at? You can see the 20-week moving average here. We broke under it once. And I was saying on this channel, was this a top? And I was feeling pretty confident that this might be a top. But we never lost the bullish trend, the 50-week moving average. We have to keep an eye on that. And it just bounced and went up further. So Bitcoin dominance, I am wondering if this is where it tops out. If we do draw a fib, and let's turn off the moving averages so this is cleaner. If we do draw a fib, this is the golden ratio scale, okay, from high to low. Make sure our fib's on log. You can see that the 786, I know it's hidden in there. The 786 is right where this peaked. So maybe this is just a prelude of where we are going to see a top for Bitcoin dominance. I am looking for that 786 to hold, personally. If it doesn't, we'll address that when we get there. However, if we're just going off the overall trend, last cycle Bitcoin dominance did not get as high as the cycle before. There are more altcoins this time around. I think there's still that appetite in the crypto space for people who want to get rich and play the altcoin game. And there's many more altcoins. And I know there's dilution, and that's an argument for people to be Bitcoin maxis. But I am not, me personally, I am not expecting dominance to go as high as it did last cycle to 73%. I could be wrong, but I am looking at this level of 64% to possibly hold for Bitcoin dominance. Now, what is the shadow of Bitcoin dominance? And that is the Ethereum pair against Bitcoin. And if you don't know what this means, we are just basically comparing the overall value of Ethereum against Bitcoin. Right now, it's at 0.15, which means Ethereum's overall market cap is 15% of Bitcoin's. You can check the math on this if you want. 262 billion is 15% of 1.7 trillion. That's what this chart is showing us, is that Ethereum Bitcoin, when it's down here, we are not on our way to alt season. When does alt season happen? Well, let's just cross-reference this. This was late 2017, okay? And alt season here, this was April of 2021. All right, let's go back to our chart. So you can see this is where the Ethereum Bitcoin bottomed around 0.5. And then by early 2018, we were up here. Ethereum's market cap was almost 60%. If you see that number all the way on the right, almost 60% of Bitcoins. Okay, last cycle, Ethereum Bitcoin bottomed when ETH was about 10% the overall market cap. Now, alt season ended it was by May 10th. Okay, so let's go up to here. So Ethereum's market cap was 50% of what Bitcoin's was. So just looking at this overall trend, when we see alt season, and again, it might be a V reversal like we had here in 2017. It might be a gradual increase like last cycle. It might be something in between, something longer, and a top. Now, right now, we're nowhere near that. In fact, we are at the total opposite end of the spectrum. That's why you hear people saying there is no alt season. I disagree with them. Why? Because we haven't had the reversal of this trend yet. This trend is still going down, and we know how to track trends. We can just take a look at the moving averages. When this trend truly bottomed, we didn't have confirmation until ETH Bitcoin was holding above the 50-week moving average. Okay, yes, it had that spike in 2020. But overall, that is the dividing line between bullishness and bearishness. And we even have bullish divergence to show for that too. Okay, so you see the base of the RSI here. When the strength is going up on the base, but the overall price is going down, that's what's called bullish divergence. We can even use other RSIs. The ultimate RSI, okay, this is bottoming out. This has to swing back up sometime. Who's to say when? We even have the stochastic RSI, okay? This wants to swing up. And maybe you want to take a look at the monthly. I mean, look at this. My God. Eventually, this will go back up. We can take a look at, there's another one I wanted to do. Let's do the MACD. Okay, that's the MACD on the monthly. The weekly, I kind of like what the monthly is showing a little bit better here. I mean, overall, we need to see this cross up, and we have not had that yet. So this might be a bottom for Ethereum against Bitcoin. But if anything, what this shows me is that we still have time to accumulate altcoins before they top against Bitcoin. Now, if Ethereum, by the time it gets to alt season, which our last two alt seasons were here and here, if Ethereum gets around 0.5 or 0.4 to 0.5, and you're wondering how much will Ethereum be worth by then? Well, if we go to potential tops for Bitcoin, okay, let's draw a fib here. We're going to draw a fib from the high to the low. We're going to take our fib off log scale to look at price targets. Okay. So Bitcoin, it got to the 1618. We know that we only had wicks above the 1618, never candle body closes. That's why we see weakness. Happened last time Bitcoin reached its all-time high. We had wicks, and yes, there were new highs, but no candle bodies closing. Once we get the candle bodies on the weekly, we went up to the next stage. If Bitcoin gets to the 2618 at 150 some thousand, Bitcoin will have a market cap of around $3 trillion. So going back to ETH Bitcoin, if ETH Bitcoin gets to the 0.5, and let's say Bitcoin's around 150K, 3 trillion market cap, that means Ethereum will have 1.5 trillion market cap. Or maybe it tops, maybe we get alt season when it's around 40%. Let's say $1.2 trillion market cap. Well, we can do some quick, easy math here. Ethereum's market cap is about 5 times underneath that. Okay. We're just rounding 250 billion. 250 times 5 is 1.25 trillion. Okay. So if we saw Ethereum do a 5x, where would that put Ethereum? Okay. 5 times 2, that's 10. Times this, that's at around 11K. 11K is right by where the 2618 is for Ethereum. So when we see alt season, I don't know when it'll be, but when we do, these are the fibs to watch for. The 1618 to the 2618. If Ethereum is getting between 7K and 11K, that's when we are seeing this come to a completion. Now, as I just showed you with the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, that is still bottoming out. Ethereum still bottoming out. I mean, let's zoom in on this. Let's take a look at our prices in between. And right now, I mean, it's done from the high to the low. You know, it's chopping around. It's down to the 0.5. It might come back down to the 3.2 at around 1680. If this continues to go down. So are we seeing any sort of bullish divergence for Ethereum? Well, let's take a look at that. Right here, this is just plain old bearish. Okay. Strength going down, price still even, the base of the strength going down. This tells me we haven't seen a bottom yet for Ethereum, that it's very possible this could go lower. That's what the RSI is telling me. If we take a look at some other RSIs, I mean, there you can make a different argument that maybe there's some hidden bullish divergence on the ultimate RSI. If we take a look at the MACD, okay, this shows us our trend is still downwards. And so do not be surprised to see Ethereum come down a little bit more in the near future. But again, I'm looking at all this, if you've been watching for the past 20 minutes, is a 1998 style scenario where we might see the NASDAQ and the S&P go down to their 100-week moving averages. Okay. And what that would mean is, let's turn our moving averages back on. We might, and I mean, that kind of lines up over here too. We might see the S&P get down to around 5,300. So that would just, in my opinion, that would cause a lot of people to capitulate. Of course, if that's happening in the markets, it's going to be worse for crypto. And that would be a flush style scenario that I could see forming a bottom before us blasting up further. That's sort of what I'm looking for. All right. Let's take a look at just a couple other charts to drive the point home. Total 3 divided by Bitcoin. And by the way, how's the stream quality on your end? If you don't mind commenting below. I did have an internet issue a couple weeks ago. It seems like I fixed it, but if there's any sort of quality issues on your end, please comment below. I have the stream quietly going on my TV. It looks fine there. But if you're experiencing Caspa, which I think Caspa is just a Solana garbage coin, but we'll take a look at it. Bon Caspa, there was another one. It'll come to me. But if you have any requests, oh yeah, Bit Digital. If you have any requests for any cryptos or stocks, let me know, and I'll get to those technical analysis here in about probably 5 minutes. All right, coffee's still tasting pretty good. Here's the total 3 divided by Bitcoin. And if you're wondering what total 3 is, that is the total crypto market cap outside Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we take all the market cap of the rest of the market. So starting with XRP on down, we add all that together. When you compare that, it's kind of like Ethereum, Bitcoin, kind of similar. But there is a little bit of a difference here. We see total 3 Bitcoin holding on to that 0.5. So, you know, to me, that looks pretty good right there. That you definitely see this rounding out. Now, maybe we eventually form a base at the 618 at around 0.4, and that's the true bottom before going up. And we get sort of a U-shaped pattern here. But that's something to watch for. We are not closing above the 50-week moving average yet. Let's take a look at others divided by Bitcoin. And others is the total crypto market cap outside the top 10. So outside the very best or the altcoins with the highest amount of value. And so others is everything outside of these. Tron, Cardano, Doge, some stable coins, Binance, Solana, XRP, Ethereum. It's everything from Pi on down, Chainlink, all that added together. So if you have under a $20 billion market cap, you are part of the others basket of alts. And when we take a look at others divided by Bitcoin, let's get rid of this for a second here. You can see we are in this channel. Here was the top in alt season in 2017, the early 2018. Here was alt season in April to May of 21. And yes, the overall altcoin market cap against Bitcoin, it did go higher. We did have that second pump that concluded more in November. It does surprise me how these pump further. And maybe that has to do with, some other altcoins out there that aren't as much talked about. But I will say, when we see this flush from altcoins, it does get more concentrated on the second pump up. So the first pump has been alt season the last 2 times, something to keep in mind. But overall, there's no denying we are in this channel. Could this be a bottoming, as we talked about with total 3 divided by Bitcoin and others divided by Bitcoin? Right now, all the altcoins out there outside the top 10 have a market cap of 14% against what Bitcoin's market cap is. Okay? Similar to Ethereum's market cap. Because we took a look at ETH Bitcoin, we were around 15%. And so all the altcoins have around a market cap of $140 billion right now. Or sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. 260 billion. That's what they all add up to. Now, we did show that when we take a fib, we draw high to low, and we look at price targets for that fib, that last alt season got up to the 1618. And I don't think it's surprising that we see the 2618 come up as a target in this channel. Okay, so what this is showing us is that all the altcoins reached a value almost half of the market cap of what Bitcoin was. So if we do get up to the 2618, and I'm not sure if I believe this, just saying it out loud, will all the altcoins outside the top 10 have 72% of the total market cap value against Bitcoin? So I am looking for the 1618 again. We'll see if the move here happens. Saying this out loud, I'm not sure I believe it. It might happen. But if we are going to see others Bitcoin get up to the 2618 and the upper area of this channel, again, it's good to think about this now, because a lot of us and a lot of people out there, retail, dumb money, they react to the markets. They let their emotions get in the way. We need to talk about this stuff now so we can put this into our plan, into our strategy, and not let our emotions get in the way. That is why it's important to talk about this stuff now, because when this happens, if this does, you're going to see a lot of euphoria in the market happen in 2021 and 2017. I've seen that happen the last few times. It's easier to make a plan when your mind is calm. And that's why we call it market psychology, because we want to be in our frontal lobe, our thinking focus, smartest area of our brain, so we don't let the emotions work our way in. That frontal lobe doesn't finish developing until we're 25, 26. You've probably heard that on a podcast before. As someone who works in this field, I can tell you that's true. But you want to use that thinking part of your brain to form a plan right now as far as what your strategy is going to be. So my plan, my strategy, when total 3 Bitcoin, when others Bitcoin, when Ethereum Bitcoin, when we're getting into these extended levels, that is where I am taking profits. When Bitcoin is, this is all part of my strategy right now. When Bitcoin is topping out or topped out, whether it's 150 or 200K, that is where I'm taking profits. When we're seeing that, when Bitcoin dominance is going down, let's take that off. When Bitcoin dominance is tanking down, this is where you need to look at taking profits if you got in any of the good altcoins. Speaking of altcoins, if you have any you want me to talk about, comment them below. I hope you are all doing well. And yeah, let's get into some altcoin analysis right now. We have some Doge fans out there, so we'll talk about Doge first. Doge is still a popular one. All right. So Doge, we did have this break above this trend line. We don't really need this anymore. In fact, I mean, this was even a channel back here. But Doge coming down. Let's put our moving averages back on. Does look to be sinking underneath that. Getting a spam call. Let's hit cancel on that. Does look to be getting under that 50-week moving average, but it's being bought up at the 0.5. So from the high to the low, we're right at that middle area, the 0.5 fib, and it is getting bought up there. Do we have any monthly moving averages? Ooh, this is why it's good to look at the monthly once in a while. Like, where are these wicks going to? And it's perfectly being bought up on the 20-month moving average. So that's why we take a look at various time scales. So the 20-month moving average is holding up right there. It's been a strong area of support. Let's take a look at the daily for Doge. And overall, this looks pretty good on the 0.5. So could this be a possible bottom area for Doge? I think it could be if Bitcoin is bottoming right now. I am not so sure of that. Again, we talked about how earlier in this video, I'm Still micro bearish within the next month, but I'm still macro medium term bullish, meaning the next year or so. The next month, I still feel there could be another big flush coming. I could be wrong about that. And if we already bottomed, then this is a good area to DCA. But if you're waiting for confirmation, we don't have that yet, and it could go lower. And this would be the next area to look for. As far as the other moving averages, I mean, this 100-week moving average would definitely be an area to watch for if Doge got around 17 cents. But, if you're macro bullish on Doge, and let's say, you're taking a look at some of the price targets that are at the 1618, if Doge gets to the 1618, I'm taking all profits. I don't care. Kind of like with XRP earlier. I don't know if Doge is going to go to $2 and the 2618 at $1.85. And I don't care because I got Doge down here, when it was at around 7-8 cents. And so if it's getting to the 1618 up here, I'm more than happy with those profits. Sure, I could get a little bit more if it goes there, but this is my plan. If you want to be more greedy, have at it. But that is part of my plan, my strategy. How risky do you want to be? And so Doge right now, I don't hate dollar cost averaging here. But just with some of the writing on the wall for Bitcoin and the stocks, we may still see some downside. Now here, the stochastic ready to flip positive. So again, if you love Doge and you are a DCA strategist like myself, you're never going to buy the very bottom, but you can buy a bucket of bottoms. And by the time all's said and done, this would be one of those bottoms. And if Doge gets to, let's just say, back to 42 cents, up to 70, $1.16, you're not going to care too much if your bucket of bottoms includes 20-cent Doge. I mean, that's a 2x. If it gets even up to 40 cents, 10-cent Doge, that would be a 4x at the very least. Right here, that's at about 8 cents. That'd be a 5x. So that is part of my strategy with the bucket of bottoms. But it all depends where your price targets are. So that's what we have for Doge. We talked about Ethereum a little bit. Let's talk about Chainlink. So far, Chainlink holding on to that 0.5, but strong buys at the 100-week moving average and this trend line, this very lazy trend line I drew, just with the higher lows. Hasn't come down to that 200-week moving average yet. If it does, I am getting myself some Chainlink. So it got close. Do we have anything monthly? So monthly still holding on above the 20-month moving average. How about the daily? Here we go. So it came down to that trend line, which we just saw was good support for Chainlink, but it's not even getting to the 200-day moving average. It does look like it's possibly wanting to create support at this 0.5. I'm not fully convinced of that yet. So right now it's definitely honoring this 20-day moving average. That's where you see sells coming in. But if it isn't able to hold on to this, that's when I'm going to expect more downside and possible $12 Chainlink to return. All right, let's get into some of your requests from this week. For anyone who's watching, someone wanted Bit Digital. Let's talk about Bit Digital. And so, all right, let's draw this down, this channel. So before we had it drawn up here, let's get this channel as nice as we can. I think this still applies. And yes, you can still have a channel with wicks outside of it. This is on the daily, but you go to the weekly and you'll see wicks, even with fibs, they count as much as the candle bodies. So as far as Bit Digital, it is at the lower end of this channel, technically speaking. What I don't like here with Bit Digital, fib high to low, is that it is getting under the 382. Now, I do think this is a good spot, dollar cost average territory, because it's at the lower end of this channel. But if, we have bullish channels and bearish channels, and with the channels that go up like this, do not be surprised if you eventually see it break down. And if so, you might be looking for a $1.42 bit digital. Now, even as a educated gamble, if you will, I wouldn't hate picking up some bit digital just as an educated gamble down here, or at least for value. Again, you want to do your research. Do you believe if we get an alt season that bit digital will run? Now, there are signs to show it would. Okay, bit digital, it got down to this range of 50 cents. And then when we completed alt season, it got up to $30. So that's a 60x. So maybe, you know what? Bit digital, regardless of any of the bad news out there, I'm going to buy where it has value, because when we get alt season, I think it can get up to $30 or higher. Maybe that's what you believe. Okay. So if you think it can get to $30 again, I mean, what would that be? A 12x from here, right? 4 times 250 is 10. And then times 3. Yeah. So that would be a 12x from here. So if you're looking at a bucket of bottoms, there are some things to be concerned about here, but if you're buying a bucket of bottoms and you believe Bit Digital can get back up to 30, I don't hate this value here, even if it goes lower. And if it got down to $1.40 and you believe it's getting up to $30 again, I mean, then you're looking for around a 20x if you believe that'll happen. I will say, just to forewarn you, because this happened last cycle, and I need to remind all of you of this. Let me finish some coffee. There were a lot of altcoins that did very well in 2017 that did not do as well in 2021. A lot of them just died. Their charts just fell off a cliff and they flattened out and they died. Okay, and they never got anywhere back up above their fibs like I'm showing you. But even for many altcoins like XRP and Bitcoin Cash, Civic, many others, they only got up to their 786. So I think for any of these altcoins that did well last cycle, if you're using the last cycle argument, watch the 786 area and maybe just take some profits, get your return on investment back at the very least. So if you're looking for, let's say you buy Bit Digital at $1.50, you're looking for that 20x, maybe get your return on investment here, take it out by the time it gets to the 786, just in case it stalls out. There are many altcoins last cycle peak so it's okay to take some profits there, and then you're playing with house money. If it goes up further, great, you profit that. But if it goes down more, then you at least know to save whatever amount of profit you have left. So in trading, this is called a stop loss. Now, I like to trade vest sort of like a trader, but I'm using a patient dollar cost average approach. But when we do get alt season, this is just part of my plan, that if this 786 is an area where I'm taking my return on investment profits, if it does come down to the 618, then I'm taking the rest of the profits, being like, you know what, maybe and this is if alt season is showing it's completing, like the Bitcoin dominance has already gone down, ETH Bitcoin is peaking, all that. If all that's happening and I see price come down here, I'm just taking out the rest of my profits, and I'll be more than happy with a 3x or a 2x instead of holding on for another 4 years like we see here. And by the way, I apologize in advance. You're going to hear my cat feeder go off. It's got my voice programmed into it. Let's get into Bonk and Caspa. We had requests for those. And so Bonk. All right, good. This is one we charted. This is this is concerning for Bonk that it's come down here. There was another Bonk chart I looked at. Was it the MEXC one? All right, there's my cat's feeder in the background. Hold on. All right. So do we put that in or do we go by this low? Maybe we go by this low. If we draw from the low to the high, Is that what we want to do from down there or down here? Well, that kind of makes more sense if we do it here. Does it not? But, I mean, I don't even know what to make of this wick back here. Let's zoom way in. Yeah, I don't even necessarily want to draw from that one. But if we do draw from down here, just from low to high for Caspa, for Bonk, it does concern me that we're recently making newer lows here. Now it is catching on to this price action we had way back in early 24, a year ago. But if this drops, man, that's a lot to be concerned about. Yeah. Again, I'm not fully loving the fib that I drew here. I mean, this one feels somewhat better. I mean, you can see weekly price action, even the initial wick. But again, take this with a grain of salt as far as the fib. That's all I'll say. But if this does break down, you want this 3-2 to catch around, what is that, 5-0 is 426. So that's something to be aware of for Bonk. And right now, I mean, could this be bottoming? If you love Bonk, it is at the 236 fib from that area we showed down here, okay? And even if we move this up, you know, you could take a look at price coming down a little bit lower. I would say this definitely has to hold. The 5-0 is 931. So I'm not loving Bonk right here. Let's take a look at the stochastic RSI on the weekly. And I think this kind of reminds me of the Caspa chart when I looked at that for someone. So stochastic RSI, I mean, here's our bucket of bottoms here. This could be an area to buy. I've talked about for a while how this cycle, I'm kind of looking at altcoins potentially, well, Pepe for sure, sort of like this cycle's Doge, and Bonk possibly like this cycle's SHIB. I am looking at these as sort of an educated gamble, and I might pick up some Bonk around here at these levels. But once it has some more support or confirmation, but I might just throw a little bit of a educated gamble money in it, fully expecting that that money might evaporate. But if it does like a SHIB, then, you know, it'll just be play money or something that turns into money that pays for a flight somewhere. That's basically what I'd be looking at. I'm not looking at these to get mega rich or anything, but I do want to see more of a bottoming confirmation process before I get into some of these riskier ones. The last one that we had a request for in the comments, and again, you guys can comment anything you want in the comments if you're looking for some TA, is Caspa. This is another one where, you know, how do we draw a fib on this? This one kind of, it reminds me of Bonk as well. I mean, do we honor that one? Maybe this makes more sense. Again, take this fib with a grain of salt, but we might see a bottom around this 6.5 cent area. Let's go over to the weekly. Does that change things? Yeah, at least as far as this chart goes, I'd say the 3 to 6 cent area, you would want to see that hold. I guess, you know, we'll just staircase this one down. You take a look at 1.5 cent Caspa, but right now it's losing that weekly moving average and going over to the daily moving average. This is not looking good right now. This 5 cent area as well, that'd be an area to watch for. And I guess our fib, when we drop from this very bottom, it does line up over here with the 5 cent area. So maybe we do include that. I would be taking a look at if Caspa gets down to that 5 cent area, watch what it does. And if it forms somewhat of a base, that would still be good in my opinion. All right, let's get to some other, we talked about Chainlink, right? Yes, we did talk about Chainlink. Let's talk about XRP. We haven't talked about XRP in a hot minute. Let's see how this one's been holding up. So XRP, it got to the 1618, which we can show with our fib right here. And overall, I mean, it's still testing that 1618. It tried making it into support, came down to its former all-time high area, wicked back up. It's been rejected off the 1618, and at least on the daily, we have a big doji. It's undecided. So if it does come back down, I would not be surprised to see XRP get down to, I mean, here's the 200-day moving average at $1.83. In my opinion, I'm not buying XRP around here. I just don't see the value in it. If it does go up higher and we get an alt season, you'd be looking around this $5 area as a target. But, something to consider. That's A, that's a 2x, and B, you're counting a XRP doubling its market cap from 150 billion to 300 billion. So, I mean, that's a long ways to go, but that would be something I just don't see as much of the risk reward there for XRP. And if you were DCAing and buying, in this range from when it was 40 cents to 60 cents, I mean, you just got a 6x, a 7x. And so this 1618 area, I think, is great profit-taking area for XRP. I know there's people out there calling for $100 XRP, which is total nonsense. You're talking about a 50x for XRP, and that would mean a market cap. If we're taking 150 billion, right, times 5, that would be 750 billion, and then you add a zero because it's a 50x. That'd be XRP being worth 7.5 trillion. And the biggest argument that's so stupid, these people talk about how market cap doesn't matter. Oh, it's the market cap argument again. That's so stupid to completely ignore market cap at that point. Now, as market cap for altcoins in here gets, to the tens of billions, or you're talking about coins that are worth, or cryptos that are worth, 1 billion going to 10 billion, 100 million going to a billion. That's within reason. But when we're talking about 7.5 trillion, that's just ridiculous. And nothing has a market cap that big. No stock out there. XRP is not going to go to $100 and be worth, what would that be? Twice as much as Apple, Microsoft, or Nvidia. So, that you would think that's common sense, but there's people out there. And I think part of the reason they make that argument is because they want you, retail, dumb money, to keep buying while they're selling. And I think they just see people out there as exit liquidity. So, again, I'm not hating on XRP. I just think those predictions are very foolish. And I hate seeing people fall into those traps, especially when our hard-earned money, we work hard enough for it. I hate seeing people get scammed. And it's part of the reason I made this channel anyways, is because I wanted to bring some conservative common sense to this space. Let's take a look at Solana, and then we'll go over to miners. So Solana, SOL, shit out of luck. All right, Solana, let's go to, I think I charted this one. Yes, I did. All right, so Solana, we had this channel broke out, got to the former all-time high area on the daily. You can see it came back down to the channel, and now the channel, it is, this is where the sell pressure is coming in. So Solana, not doing so hot, hanging on to the 50. You see these wicks being bought up. That's at the 100-week moving average. Something you can also do that's important to watch for is Solana. You can do this with any cryptos, but you do their pairing against Bitcoin. Okay, so Solana Bitcoin, right now it's holding support at the 200-week moving average. Something to keep an eye on. You don't want to see that break down further. That's the 50-month moving average. And so could this be a possible bottoming area? I mean, I thought it was a possible bottoming area when it was here, but we do have that horizontal support. But if it does go further, just keep these charts in mind as you're looking at altcoins. Charles Kelly, welcome. Happy Friday, dude. Happy you're here. Charles, we were just, I started this video off by making comparisons of the stock market cycle to that of 1998, that we might get some increased volatility, but I'm still looking for a bubble to come, even though we might get some big flushes in the market in the near term. Medium term, the next year or so, I'm still bullish. That's what I said in the beginning in a nutshell. But the volatility has been hanging up a little bit higher. It isn't quite like super high, when we get those rare spikes. And by the way, this last August, that was a rare spike. When we see the VIX go that high, usually that is a major bottom in the market. But the stocks still went higher. And so this does concern me macro long term, that we're going to get many more of these spikes. Again, I was making that 2001 comparison. What did that look like? 1998 to 2000, when we had the dot-com bubble. Look at how high the volatility was getting and how it stayed elevated. I mean, constantly above 17, 16, 17. Volatility was high for a few years. Kept having these spikes. The 30s are higher. That usually signals local bottoms. Now, 17, I mean, we've been hanging under there with the low volatility. So if we start to see volatility just hang out here for a few years, that's saying that there is a turn coming in the markets. Charles, if you have any requests for specific altcoins or crypto project stocks, let me know in the comments below. I was about to get into some miners. So we'll get into Mara, Marathon Digital Holdings. We see this ascending trend line here. So Mara, it is in this channel, and we are on the weekly right now. We're underneath our moving averages on the weekly. I mean, it's losing that 50-month moving average a little bit. Let's go to the daily. Daily, man, look at that nice bounce. But Mara now has come up to the 0.5, so let's see what happens here. It hasn't taken the 0.5. We might just see it come back down. So if it does, you can target Mara at around $12. This is the number one Bitcoin miner stock with the market cap a shade under $5 billion. So a possible target, and you can set buy orders if you're looking for this at around $12. Maybe you're just going to put it a little higher, somewhere around $12.20 for Mara. But looking at some of the other indicators, we've been talking about the MACD a little bit more because we are in this downtrend. This might be a possible change, as soon as the MACD starts getting a little lighter and moving on its way up, that has signaled that we already bottomed. So that might be, but you can see that can be a fake out too, as we saw right here. So if Mara does come back down to the $12 range, I would not mind picking some up. Charles says, thank you for the recap. You're welcome. I'm still bullish until Bitcoin gets close to my average price. Tesla again, please. All right, let's get into Tesla. Dude, Tesla, out of the Mag 7 stocks, man, when we get bearish, Tesla, you see this on the MACD. That is bearish. So this one, it's fallen down hard. Could we see a sort of a V reversal here like we saw in 2023? But this one just keeps falling. Right now, the most recent buy pressure has been off the 100-week moving average. Let's go over to the monthly. Something with Tesla, just important to know. The last two times it came down to the 100-month moving average, as crazy as that sounds, those were the bottoms. And so you do want to keep that in mind. Is Tesla going to come up to the 100-month moving average? And by the way, I mean, are you seeing what I'm seeing here? Is this possible that Tesla is in a giant channel? It might not be. Maybe I'm just seeing things. Let's draw this out. just in case. I'm just playing with the charts here. So not so much. I mean, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. What do you think, Charles? If we drew this, oh crap. If we drew this channel and went more from these peaks, is that more of a local bottom? Kind of. I don't know. I'm not loving this channel, but sometimes I just play with channels. If it looks like there are channels, I do think if you do find them, they're important to look at, because then you could say, well, this could be a bottoming area at around 200. Okay, we also have the 200-week moving average down there. I don't love this channel. Maybe you do, but I don't love it. But let's put our fib back on. Let's do our high to low fib from this area. Let's make sure our fib is on log scale. All right, cool, it is. We have our 888. And we also have, so Tesla is coming down to the golden pocket area. Let's add that in. So golden pocket is the 618 to the 65. So right here it is tagging down in there. And look at all the price action in that golden pocket before. So watch the reaction around this area at sort of just under 250s, 240 to 250. On the daily, what do we got for Tesla? I mean, much like the stock market, the NASDAQ. So with Tesla, I think you want to look for areas where you could see potential bottoming forming. And Tesla, as far as risky tech assets, it is one of the most highly traded, up there with Palantir and NVIDIA. And so right now, as I've seen in the trading charts, and I'll just be straight with you, as far as positive and negative gamma in the trading charts, I don't feel that I know enough about it to regurgitate it or to talk about it on this channel. But I will say right now, the trading has been very negative. There is a lot of negative pressure with trades each day with your Teslas, your Palantirs, and you definitely want to see that flip. And so there are other channels out there who talk about that stuff way better than I could, because I'm not a trader. But that is important to pay attention to. As far as Tesla, I mean, the stochastic could be bottoming out here. Last couple times we've been down here. I mean, you can see that Tesla, these are the last times the stochastic was this negative. Okay, where are you catching it? Are you catching it here, or is there a final flush? So this is that initial area. When it's uncertain, sometimes I take a look at the RSI. Again, the MACD is still negative, so that tells me we could still see further downside. Here we see an increase in the strength from the base, and we still have yet to see a bounce in the RSI. And so if we see the RSI start to form a bottom, that would be something to watch for. Let's go to our ultimate RSI. So ultimate RSI, yeah, I mean, I'm still seeing further weakness to go. But with stocks like Tesla, Palantir, NVIDIA, watch for those Vs. Watch for those V reversals where we just bottom and shoot up. Charles, I'm in Tesla for the long game. I just keep DCAing, want to see where the next low might be. 100-week looks good for another buy. And, definitely, like I said before, moving average-wise, I mean, look where the peak bottoms were. Watch that 100-month moving average. I don't know when the 200-month will spawn in, but that 100-month has been the deepest value in May of 19. Now, if we get a full-blown recession later on, you could see this go even deeper, possibly down to the 100 area again. But those deeper values, if we're just looking at the monthly, which, after the last couple big Tesla pumps, they've come down around the 50 to the 100. You're looking at around 230 down to 178. I would be watching, I think, if we do get any more of a flush in the NASDAQ, I'd be watching this 230 level. All right. Van the Man, what's a good profit-taking strategy? Sell Bitcoin around 150K and wait for the next bear market. Example, while waiting for the bear, do you keep those profits in a high-yield savings or put into a scheduled ETF? That is a great question. And that's not one I want to answer for you or guide you, because I'm not a financial advisor by any stretch of the imagination. You do see money rotating more into bonds at these levels because the bond payout for a lot of people, the mega whales, they're fine getting that average of, whatever it is, 5-6% over the next 5-10 years than what they believe the stock market will return. You've probably heard that thing where it's hard to beat the stock market, which has an average return of 10%. Part of my plan personally is, where it makes sense to take profits, I do. So when my NVIDIA did an 11x and it got to that 130 area, I was fine taking profits because I bought NVIDIA. I bought a nice bag of it at the very bottom in late 22. Late 22, I bought a bunch of NVIDIA, Meta, Palantir. Now, it wasn't at the very, very bottom, but in here, I was buying hard. And so where I got a 10x inside of 2 years, I'm like, I'm fine taking profits here. And I'm fine leaving that money on the side until we get further dips, or rotating that money elsewhere, whether it to be other stocks, a CD, you're talking about ETFs, high yield savings, safer areas. I think that's fine too. So you want your money to work for you, for sure. How you go about that, that's one reason I like dividend stocks, because those stocks pay you to own them, which is pretty great. So if I'm seeing dividend stocks or ETFs, so we could talk about, like Pepsi, they have a little dividend, 3M, Stanley Black & Decker. They also have Milwaukee Tool, Starbucks. If I'm seeing these at really deep value, I'm not telling you to buy these. These can still go lower. I'm good getting the dividends on some of the historic value I'm seeing here, even knowing full well these can go lower. All right. So there are various things you can do. I don't want to come across at all encouraging you to do any one thing. I would just say explore your options. And yeah, it sounds like you have a good, safe, planned mindset that if Bitcoin gets to that 150K area, that might be where Bitcoin, gosh, it's so busy. That might be where Bitcoin tops out at that next fib area, 150K. Maybe it's 150 to 200K. I don't know. But if your average Bitcoin buy has been down here and you're getting a 5X, I think that's great. I think it's great the way you're thinking. Because yes, this stuff does not go up forever. MSTR. Let's take a look at MicroStrategy. That is a good reminder. Thank you for that. I was thinking about putting in the dividend ETF called SCHD, but curious about what other options there are. Before MicroStrategy, sorry, because Van did ask this before. SCHD. Schwab. Gotta love Schwab. I have a friend who works for them. Very smart guy. All right, Schwab. And even Chuck Schwab, he's a very smart person as well. If you haven't listened to some of his older podcasts out there, not podcasts, but seminars, he is a guy worth listening to. Same with Buffett. They have a lot of wisdom and intelligence. I think it's important to remind ourselves of, so we don't get too deep into the weeds all the time, like the charts encourage us to do. This one looks very good. Dividend, nice, 3.54%. These would be levels to watch for. And as far as, when we have downturns in the market like we did in 2020, or, Yep, late 22, late 23, those are going to be areas. So if there is further downturns in the markets, watch for Schwab at around, it likes this 200-week moving average. That tends to be the depth for a lot of these ETFs. Another one I've heard of that people like, JP Morgan, JEPI. This is one to look into. Look at that dividend yield, 7.38%. Do your own research. What does the monthly show us? Monthly is still newish, and we have a monthly sell signal. So, do your own research as far as dividend stuff out there. But as far as one like this, let's connect these bottoms down here. Here's a good dividend yield one. JP Morgan, Schwab, even in a bad recession, I don't see them going anywhere. This would be one to watch. Of course, there's other stocks out there too. Like I was talking about, dividend stocks. And if you haven't already, definitely take a look at Market Watch at the financials of any of these. So if you're looking at, for example, Stanley Black & Decker, which is a dividend stock, and they own Milwaukee Tools. I don't see Milwaukee Tools going anywhere. Great company. But if you're taking a look at the balance sheets of these, even just very quickly, oh God, total assets, total current, 24 billion, 7 billion. Okay. Positive ratio. You want to see the positive ratios on these because in recessions, the companies in the negative ratios do way worse. There is another type of stocks out there, ones that do overall better than the average stock. I believe it's called ROIC stocks, return on investment capital. If you compare ROIC stocks to others, they tend to do even better. So research that on your own, but look for those stocks where they are returning on their investment capital. Those would be ones to watch for as well. All right. So yeah, those would be ones to look at. And, if you guys are interested in me doing some more stock videos in the future, dividend stock ones, or even a live stream where we have a conversation kind of like we are now, I'd love to do that. Most people that are watching seem to have more of an interest in crypto, but I don't mind talking about this stuff because, I think it's important to have our money work for us and capitalize on future bear markets and recessions. All right, let's get to MSTR. I'm sorry for making you wait, Charles. We have a couple other comments. Maybe a split between SCHD and HYSA. Schwab got started in steel, I think, or railroads. I did not know that. Thank you, Bailey and Charles. I would be unwilling to let go of my SCHD if it were to drop when it came time to buy more Bitcoin. Really hate losing money. Don't we all? I'm there with you. At Charles, that's a good idea to split between HYSA and SCHD. It'd be painful to see it drop when it's time to liquidate it to rotate back into the Bitcoin bear market. Yeah, that's a strategy. And weigh those out. And part of the reason I use these moving averages is because I think it's important to look at the historic deep value of where we could see potential bottoms. All right, let's get into micro strategy here. So MSTR, let's do a couple of fibs here. Let's first draw a high to low because I believe I hit the 2618. If our fibs off log scale, had that nice double bottom there. The log scale got right up to the 1618, but here, never mind. Got way above it. Got to the 4236, hung around the 3618. It's come down. It's got support at the 50-week moving average. Now, last cycle, we saw this top 2 to 3 months before alt season. Is something similar going to happen with MSTR? People are making that argument. And if so, you want to see a bounce here like we had off the 50-week moving average. It might come down to the 100-week. Let's just draw our fib from low to high next. And then we'll do some micro fibs. And look at some other strength indicators. All right, low to high. I mean, here's another thing to look at. We're getting close to that 236 at 226. It hasn't quite got there, and MSTR is liking this 50-week moving average. Okay, so that's a good thing. It is like that 50-week moving average. So if it got underneath that 100 is right around where these peaks are. 172 could be an area to watch for. Let's look at, I must have multiple indicators on. I have my buy signals on. Let's take a look at our stochastic, our MACD. Let's do MACD first. So, still falling. We haven't seen quite a reversal yet. Actually, let me add that back on to watch for. Let's go to stochastic to watch for. Let's go to stochastic. So that's getting ready to cross up. It's already been bottoming out, and as you can see, this might be a bottoming area. Maybe it has a little bit further down to go. Maybe it gets down to 174, which is, it's crazy to look at it. On the fib, it doesn't reflect as far as the price. That would still be, almost a 50% drop. But are we possibly peaking? I would say, from what I see in the MACD and the stochastic, we don't have the confirmation yet. How about regular RSI? I just don't see now here in this uptrend, ever since we started all the way from the bottom, this is as low as the RSI has gotten. Now, has that coincided with price dips? It has. So we have the moving average and the RSI saying this might be a bottom right here. And that would be something to pay attention to. If we go in on the daily, this is a lot like what Bitcoin's doing. Came down to the 200-day, but now we're having that battle, 200-day to the 100-day, okay, even the 50-day. I wonder if it's going to come back down to 250 again, or even if it starts to close under this 200-day and get stuck in here, I would be very careful. So if it does, this is a doji, it's undecided, but if it does come back down here and gets under that 200-day, I would be very, very cautious on a possible big flush to here before going up for that 100-week moving average. Let's take a look at HYSA. This is the one you're talking about? Nice even chart. That 200-week moving average. Right now it's stuck between those moving averages. A lot of swings in this one. Yeah, dividend yield 6.76%. I assume this is the one you're talking about. There's that one, X. Just want to take a look at that one. Just why not? Yeah, I assume you're talking about the other one. So this one's not been around for too long. Since 2023. Oh, high yield savings account. When you were talking about SCHD before, I was curious. I'm like, is there actually an ETF called the HYSA? All right. I don't have blonde hair, but there's my blonde moment. Feel free to laugh at me. I deserve it. Yeah, because at first when I saw SCHD, I was like, now, yeah, there's other ways to look at the acronym. My job, by the way, working in my field, it is filled with acronyms. And so, yeah, I apologize. There are way too many acronyms for too many damn things. So, high yield savings account, of course. All right. We have to get further into Bitcoin miners. Yes, he's laughing at me. I deserve it. I'm laughing at myself a little bit. I'm like, God, I drank my coffee and everything. I have no excuse. Sometimes you just got to trust your gut. And I don't know, Van the Man, if you play a game out there, the Wordle games, they have connections and other ones. Sometimes the answer is so obvious, but we overcomplicate it. And so there's a prime example. Today's connections, I don't know if any of you are Severance fans. Today's connections has some Severance words in there. I got excited when I saw it. Anyways, let's get to the other miners. And we have 14 people in the chat. Welcome. We are just going through technical analysis on any of your requests. People are requesting various ETFs, dividends, altcoins, miners. So if you have any requests, or, we're just here having a conversation. If you want to share your thoughts, please do, on where we are in the current stage of the cycle. So Riot, man, not looking so good. And if it does come down to the lower end of this channel at around $7, I would be definitely looking at picking up some extra Riot. It is matching up with this bottom over here a little bit, but do keep an eye out for that $7 Riot. Once it lost this 382 and these moving averages, just coming down. So do we have any indication of a turnaround? Let's go through our classic. So, there it's possibly still bottoming out on the MACD, stochastic. Yeah, tried to cross up, still going down. I mean, this one still looks bearish. So I'd be waiting for confirmation on this one. RSI, is this going to... That doesn't really tell us anything. How about the ultimate one? Yeah. I mean, here we're at a level that's sort of an average, but it's still just sinking. So this is, I think Riot is at a level where I'd want some more confirmation first. Let's take a look at CleanSpark. By the way, any of you watching, do you guys have any Bitcoin mining stocks? And if so, which ones do you like? So CleanSpark, it does look like it's possibly losing that 618 fib. If we go over to the daily, yeah, came down. I'm sure there's some horizontal price action that, yeah, right back here. Okay, even further back, we see some tops over here as well. Okay, so right now the 618 is offering some good resistance. And so do not be surprised to see CleanSpark come down to the mid $6 range. I mean, the 382, the lower end of the channel. If it gets down here in that $6 area and you like CleanSpark, I'd be looking at picking some up. Probably close to half my portfolio is CleanSpark. Well, all right, let's look a little deeper at that then for you. I don't want to just gloss over it. So, yeah, I still do see, I mean, on the chart wise, I still do see a little bit of downside. And the stochastic's showing us this. We want to see this start to reverse. I mean, this was brutal right here. You're like, okay, I'm going to DCA CleanSpark here. And then it just gives you some hope and frickin' tanks. But here at that 0.5 fib, 0.5 fib has not been a bad area to at least get some value. But this channel, I'd be watching for the stochastic to kind of curl and see where price is. And if this is a bullish channel, when we do break out, I mean, that could be glorious. Let's take a look at the MACD for you. Okay, this is surprising to me. With all the fear and things going on, that we haven't seen the MACD get down further. And I think that kind of goes in line of, if we are to see CleanSpark come down here, that's when you'd see further divergence to the downside. So, yeah, I'd be watching that MACD possibly get even further down. So, this is the ultimate RSI. It is getting into that oversold area, and then we want to see it bottom out. And you can see as it bottoms out, price can go further, but that's where we start to get that bullish divergence. You have a 975 average. I've been considering selling for A little wash and picking up some more in that 6 range. Yeah, I mean, it's something to think about. It's the way I play these. I mean, I just buy and hold just so I don't miss any of the big pumps. But yeah, miners, they've definitely been a more tame than a lot of the altcoins out there. So is that the worst? No. But, it all depends on when you're buying in, what indicators you're looking at. But me personally, I would definitely look at picking some up in that $6 range. And if it gets there, I probably will be. In fact, I know I will be. I'm out of cash trying to finish up an LS swapped Fox body to sell for funds. Yeah. I look at, so this is my strategy. You don't have to do this. I have a monthly budget, and each month I take a look at the conditions. I'm like, okay, is something at a price level, a fib, a moving average that I like? Is it at the confirmation I like? Right now, I've DCA'd about half my monthly budget, but I'm holding on to the other half because I think there's some writing on the wall to show there could be further downside. I could be wrong, but I DCA'd half my monthly budget to look at just certain price targets were hit, but I'm saving the other half more for confirmation. And I might pull that money into the next month and just buy more when we do get that confirmation. All right, let's go to the next miner. But I'm hoping for big things for you for CleanSpark. That is one where the research, I think, looks very nice. And of course, all crypto research looks nice, but I do like CleanSpark. Iron, that's another one. Iron's chart's been holding up pretty good. And Iron, yeah, here's what I'm talking about. I mean, it's just hanging on. Now, if it loses a 618, watch out. Then we're watching the point. I think the 0.5 would definitely be the area to watch for Iron around the $5 range if it gets down there. And I'm sure we're going to see similar things as we saw for CleanSpark. That the MACD, yeah, it's still bottoming out. So we want to see confirmation. Yeah, things are still bottoming out strength-wise. But overall, it does seem to be holding that 618, which is it. Never mind. It's like it's holding on to the 618 on the weekly. On the daily, it's like, nope. I mean, even that daily candle, that concerns me. That after it came down here, it's definitely losing the 618. And with those strength indexes showing that there's further downside, I'm definitely looking for that $5 to mid $6 area for Iron. If it gets that 0.5, I think is a juicy target to wait for. All right, what are some other miners? We have Cypher, Wolf. We took a look at Bit Digital before. Cypher, Wolf, and Bitfarms. Let's finish with those. Oh, not the right tab. Cypher, Wolf, and Bitfarms. All right, Cypher. So at the lower end of its channel, on the daily, it is holding on to that 618. It's in that golden pocket area, 618 to the 65, but it's in a bearish channel, not a bullish one. So it's ascending. So this falls out through the bottom. This is another one where we're looking at the 0.5 at around the $2 range for Cypher if this is the breakdown. And again, we have the S&P and the NASDAQ at its 200-day moving average, possibly in the 50-week moving average, holding so far. But if it goes lower, that would be my targets to look for. And I'm sure we're going to see very similar stuff on the other indicators. A lot of the miners, they're similar in this way. Wolf, we talked about this last week. I'm not totally in love with the channel, even though the channel does kind of hold up a little bit. Overall, does hold up. So right now, it just looks like it's on its way to the 3A2 fib. I think the 3A2 fib makes sense for a bottom for Wolf at around 290. So if you get Wolf at the low $3, 290, that'd be an area I'm looking for support, personally. All right, we're good with them. Oh, was there one more? I think there's one more minor. Yeah, Bit Farms, because we took a look at Bit Digital, right? I cannot remember which one we took a look at before, earlier in the video. I think it was Bit Digital. So Bit Farms, I mean, it's underneath that 3A2. This thing's just falling, man. Under that 3A2, has some decent horizontal support here. But overall, the state of the market right now, I'd be taking a look at some of that 83-cent value. Not that I hate getting some Bit Farms here. If you love Bit Farms, I wouldn't hate picking up at least some here with this historic value. I mean, it's been at this value ever since January of 23. And from the recent highs, not the all-time high, but the recent high, it's 70% off. Sure, it might become 80% off. But again, as you're taking a look at your strategy, your plan, your bucket of bottoms, if we are within the range of yearly and multi-year lows, and this has been one you've liked, I would definitely consider it. Not saying to buy just because it's low in price. It's low in price for a reason, okay? So you do want to, I think, be more careful and look for more of those confirmation indicators. But here, I mean, these wicks overall, you like seeing these wicks, but you don't like seeing the rejection off the fib. So I do like seeing these two wicks right here together. We'll see if it can retake the 3A2. But if not, if that 3A2 is indeed resistance, then we're looking further down. Is there any sort of... Almost looks like there's a channel there. Almost looks like there's a channel there. I mean, to me, yeah, if we line up these tops and bottoms, let's take a look at that. I swear I clicked on it. Here we go. Kind of. And that channel even extends to the peak that was out here. I would say this is enough of a channel for me. Yeah, so that would make sense as to why we're bottoming around this range, is because we have that channel. So you don't want to see that channel break. And overall, it is holding up on this. So this could be, again, if you like Bit Farms, I think this would be a decent area to look at. All right. I'm just going to take a look at a couple other altcoins. We talked about Fetch a little bit this week and how Fetch hanging out at the lower end of the channel is our fib on the log scale. Yes, it is. So it's at the 786 at the lower end of the channel. If you like Fetch, I think it's worth a possible educated gamble here. But if it were to go break under the channel, then you're watching for 40 cents. But Fetch, it has AI in the name. This is one of the biggest AI altcoins. So if this whole AI bubble continues, do not be surprised to see Fetch go further up. And I'm still proud of myself for picking up some Fetch in here in late 2022, but I'm sad I had to sell some over here. Now, I don't mind selling. I had to take profit to pay for one of my dogs to have an expensive knee surgery, $3,000, if you believe that. So, that's what making money's for, so we can use it for take care of things in our life, make our lives better. But, man, it did another 6x after that. So I was able to get a little bit more Fetch after, but yeah, this would be one I'd be watching. Let's take a look at Jasmine. It's one that a lot of people like. Still hanging out around this horizontal price action lows, but you do not want to see Jasmy get under this price because it could go all the way down to around a penny. Right now it's at 1.7 cents for Jasmy, and this is one people are looking at as a possible 30x play. One of those higher risk, higher reward altcoins. It's one I've been keeping an eye on is Jasmy. So, all right. Don't see any other comments out there. Looks like the live stream's still going well. Thank you all so much for stopping by today, being part of the conversation. And I like talking about, ETFs, stocks, dividends, all that stuff. So I know this channel is kind of more crypto. I did start it out trying to be more even across the board with crypto and stocks. I think I gravitated towards talking more about crypto because that's where y'all's interest was. But I do also have interest in stocks, dividends, ETFs. So if that's part of the conversation you want to have on these live streams, feel free to drop some comments about it. Happy to have those conversations with y'all. And I do like the way this community is growing a little bit. Hope you all have a wonderful Friday and an amazing weekend. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.